I'm Femi Oke.
And I'm Malika Bilal. Do you know the activists behind South Africa's Rhodes Must Fall movement? Well, today you'll meet some of them.
And we'll also introduce you to a theatre company from the University of Cape Town exploring ways to fight inequality.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movement, the play, and our conversation today. So tweet us or leave a comment in our live YouTube chat, and you too could be in the stream. In March of 2015, students at the University of Cape Town launched Rhodes Must Fall, a movement that not only brought down a statue, but sparked a broader discussion on how universities can better reflect a diverse student body and provide wider access to education.
3 years on, a group of students who participated in the movement are sharing their experiences. With theatre audiences around the world, the fall charts their activism while tackling issues of race, class, gender and power.
We had brought this change. We had forced management to listen to our needs, and for the first time, we felt the power. And Rhodes was powerless.
We're now joined on set by 3 co-creators and members of the cast, Amira Conrad, TANKISO MAMABOLO, and SIZWESANDILE MNISI. Welcome everyone to the stream. It is so good to have you guys here, especially because I have seen this production, and many of our audience members have as well. But even for those who didn't, many of them remember the Rhodes Must Fall movement. So I want to start here on my laptop with someone from South Africa. This is Ivan Ash, who says, "Fees must fall, Rhodes must fall, open the rot that lies deep within our society," and resulted in a clamping down of activism. So that's his takeaway from this movement that we saw in 2015. For you, thank you. So tell me about where you were when this movement started. Do you remember?
I do remember, because I was on the drama campus of UCT, so we were very separate from the main body of the campus. And I remember there was talk of someone who had thrown poo on the statue, and we were very interested in knowing what was happening. And I looked on my phone and I saw on Twitter and on Facebook videos of this guy and all these people standing around the statue. And for some reason, I was with a few of my friends who are in the play as well, and we felt drawn to the situation. There was a rush of adrenaline where we felt this is the moment that we have been waiting for. And we abandoned classes, and we went to the Bremner building where there was a meeting held, and that's where everything started, where people said, okay, well, if you're not going to tell us when the statue's going down, then we're going to occupy this building.
Yeah, and this is the Cecil Rhodes statue, which is on the campus of the University of Cape Town, and it was a bucket of poo that was thrown at Cecil Rhodes' statue. And Amira, for you, this was an education process to work out what had this guy done that made some University of Cape Town students so furious about his presence there.
Yeah, for a lot of students, I think, we weren't really aware of what the legacy of Cecil John Rhodes actually was, because it's not really something that you get taught about at high school level. It's only if you actually pursue history into university, maybe second or even third year, do you really start learning about the actual rot of colonialism, as the tweeter had said. So for me, it was, you know, okay, people are really reacting to this statue, to this moment. Why don't I know about this? What can I do to seek out this knowledge? And really the only place that you could get the information was the movement. And it was amazing to be part of that moment where it wasn't only, as a lot of people thought it was, just this like angry bunch of students occupying buildings, knocking down things, you know, being annoying to the staff members. There were also film screenings that were held. There were lectures with the Black academics that were held. There was information that was passed around to people, and it was really like a separate university to the university, which was amazing.
Sizwe, what was it about this moment? Why 2015? Why not the year 2000? Why not last year? What was it about that particular time?
I think it was time. I think, you know, the stars aligned and 2015 was that year. And I'm fortunate to be part of that group of 2015 because it was such a big symbol. The actual removing of the statue was such a big symbol that, you know, we had that power to remove the statue. So yeah, 2015 is the year, you know. I don't know why it was 2015,
right?
But it's 2015, and that's when, you know, our lives changed. Really.
So I wanted to bring this up. This is from Mishka, who says on Twitter that the impact of Rhodes Must Fall brought greater attention to the existing legacy of praising colonialism in our institutions, of how Eurocentrism, sexism, and capitalism still reign, of how narratives toward embracing African epistemologies are still disregarded. A lot there in 280 characters that she's packed in there. But break it down for us, because in the play, for those who do have the chance to go see it, you do explain some of the, what some people might call microaggressions that happen to students, whether they actually happen to you or your characters or other people you know. Help us explain for our audience who's watching at home right now what some of those microaggressions are, what some of that colonialism looks like for a day-to-day average student.
I mean, it's an understanding that we live in a country that has a majority of black people, and we go to university where, firstly, we can't afford this education. So majority of poor people in South Africa are black people, and already there is there's a divide, and there's something stopping you from pursuing that education. So from the entrance, already there's an issue. Then there comes the issue of the material that we're learning now. The material did not reflect us. We constantly had to change ourselves to fit into Eurocentric ideas of what the actress looked like, you know, issues with the way we spoke. We have 11 different languages in South Africa that come with 11 different and even more different accents. But our intelligence and our ability to apply ourselves in class was closely linked to the way we expressed ourselves. Our history was also not considered when we were doing tasks in class. So students who were privileged, who had the schools with the libraries, who had the parents with the money, who could take them around the world and show them, you know, historical places, were ahead immediately. And students like us, who came from a less advantaged background, were constantly playing catch up. And basic racism, yeah, it was a lot to handle that we didn't quite understand at the beginning.
In your own country, in a black majority country.
In a black majority country.
Why the sort of the fury and the passion was there. We rooted around to see if we could find some news clips from, it's only 2015, only a couple of years ago. We found two students and they had two very different opinions. So we want to play those two clips for our audience and have a listen, have a look, and then guys, you can comment on them.
I don't feel that you can look at these people only as colonialists or racists. A lot of these people are, on the statues at least, have contributed towards a positive South Africa. And irregular, if it is positive or negative, this is South Africa, this is our history. Our history should be remembered as it is.
The statue symbolizes so much of a disruptive, violent history, and we're here to tell management and the greater South Africa that we're tired. As students, we are tired of this. We're tired of being told transformation will happen. So we want it to happen now, not in 5 years, not another talk. Now is the time.
So you had two contrasting opinions. You had a white South African who didn't see what the issue was with the statue. Then you had black South Africans who was, okay, now it's time. At the same university, can you explain how those two coexist?
With great difficulty, I think is probably the easiest answer. The issue with the South African education system really is that it is completely segregated, in the sense that the predominantly rich white kids will go to high schools and primary schools where you can afford to be nonchalant about things, where it's not as much of a struggle. You've got easy access to books, reading materials, the windows of the school are not broken, whereas you have majority black and of color students who go to these kinds of high schools and primary schools which are dilapidated. So when you get past that matric level, you then go into the same institution, which causes these like rifts and differences of opinions, which really at a university level should be a good thing. But for me, at least, a difference of opinion, your opinion shouldn't be that, you know, my livelihood is less important than yours, or like rooted in bigotry, which is what the Cecil John Rhodes statue is.
When the movement started, I remember I was on the fence about the removal of the statue. And I'm from a black school. So you know what TANKISO and Amira are talking about, and I'm talking about my high school. When they talk about the fact that you always have to work 2 times harder, I felt that, you know. I wasn't taught maths in English. I wasn't taught physics in English. I was taught in my mother tongue. So coming to UCT, I had to catch up. So when the movement started, what got me was that the statue is just a symbol of what needs to fall in the university. And it shows you that white people will kill and will steal, and they will be celebrated for it. And that statue, that's what that statue represented. And I have to walk past this every day. But it's just a statue, and that's a symbol that we will remove the statue and everything else. And that's what got me.
And I'm going to put that in a colonial context, otherwise it sounds incredibly revolutionary about how you describe white people. But in the context of the colonialism that happened to South Africa, white people will, etc., etc.
Thank you.
You see it in America today as well. I mean, the fact that Christopher Columbus has an entire holiday that celebrates him, whereas actually his legacy is of the murder and pillaging of Native American people. And that's, I mean, that happens with these glorious white men of history in every single country in the world. South Africa was just happened to be a very important moment in time for us. And I think that we can't also discount the Black Lives Matter movement, because I think that if BLM hadn't happened in the US, that Rhodes Must Fall might not have happened in South Africa.
Oh, that's a big connection. We are talking about a production called The Fall. I want you to see a little excerpt from it. And I'm going to pick up in the production where the students have just occupied the Bremner Administration Building on a University of Cape Town's campus, and now they're discussing a way forward with regards to the Rhodes Must Fall movement in a plenary with all of the students who were at the first protests. So here to perform a scene from The Fall are CLEO RAATUS, ZANDILE MADLIWA, SIHLE MNQWAZANA, and OARABILE DISTELE.
This movement belongs to all of us. It belongs to a whole lot of groups involved with transformation at the university, like the Trans Collective. I'm non-binary, I'm in that. Imbizo, Black Monday, the Black Academics Caucus, the Workers' Union, the SRC. I'm in that too. When our comrade Umani threw human excrement on the statue of Rhodes, he was at a loss for words about how crap it is for university students at this university. In fact, throwing some poo on the statue was 100% articulate. It's amazing, really, how so many people got lit about some poo on a statue, but some very hard work was going on around transformation long before he did that.
No,
Kiddos, please. We need to talk about the statue. Hand.
Guys, I'm a little confused. Doesn't management want the statue to be taken down? I mean, aren't they just following due process?
Due process? Yeah, my sister, we all know the history of Rhodes. His statue on our campus traumatizes us. That man never wanted us here.
Yeah, ne? Cecil John Rhodes. I learned about him in my second year African history course. It was then that I realized that the history we were learning was not the history of Africa, but rather the history of how Britain and the Western powers stole Africa and carved it up into little countries, with people like Livingstone, Leopold, and Rhodes featuring as heroes. You see, Rhodes didn't only wrap up the Kimberley diamond mines for himself or a couple of his buddies, thank you very much. He was an arch-imperialist who believed 100% in the superiority of the English race. You know, all I learned about Africans was how weak we were. Weak in weaponry, travel and clothing, how we had to be civilized by the great Christian nations. I mean, what kind of history is that? And they say he donated this land to the university. But whose land was it to begin with?
OARABILE, guys, thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello. So what is it like when you are taking elements of your life and putting it on stage for everybody to look into, to critique, thinking that this character is you? What's that like?
So one thing that art does is that it gives you an opportunity to reflect society on itself. And those were the tools that we were taught in varsity, you know, how to create drama, how to facilitate a conversation, and conversations that aren't necessarily easy to be had outside of the black box space. So when we created the show, we were looking to represent as many people as we can that we saw within the movement, you know. So my character, who represents a sport athletic guy who comes into university thinking that, okay, I'm working so hard and I can easily be filtered into the cricket system, but there's a quota in the cricket sports where there's a limited amount of black people that can play for the national team or the first team, right? So that also creating and reflecting the movement on itself, reflecting society on itself and how it treated the movement, gave people a key into understanding why the students were so angry, what was happening. So like Amira was saying on the desk, it's not these hooligans that are, there's thought that goes into a plenary, there's thought that goes into what management sees, the conflict that management gave the students. It's not like the students just went, okay, we're going to protest, we're going to throw poo on the stage. There was conversations that were facilitated.
And really planned out, really thought out. And a lot of depth.
Yes, and we wanted to show
I'm about to give you another monologue and everybody is staring daggers at me. OARABILE, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Amen.
Malika.
I love what OARABILE said there, and I think it resonates here in this tweet. This is Rank and Vile South African, that's their handle. They write, I think such productions are important in absence of literature because they document the complexity that characterized the movement. They operate as a dynamic historical archive. One other person writes in really strong words here, our producers, and I love this tweet. And Kosi says, the cast of The Fall is absolutely spectacular. I was there when Rhodes fell, and the way they articulate what happened is remarkably accurate. All the characters represented what we saw. I'm so proud of them. I saw it in DC, far away from home, and I literally felt the chains of colonialism fall off of me all over again. It was a spiritual performance and experience. So as I'm reading this tweet, audience, for those of you at home, I wish you could have seen Sizwe's face. You were kind of looking at this tweet in wonderment, which is how I think that this person saw your production. The chains of colonialism fell off of this person. What do you make of some of the reactions you've gotten from audience members?
Wow. You know, it's different performing at home and performing here, because when you're performing at home, you're performing for people who were there, people who are seeing themselves, people who are remembering things that they probably, you know, forgot. So it's very refreshing performing for international audiences and seeing how issues resonate and how similar we all are, really. And that at the end of the day, we all just want to be treated like humans. We all just want to be treated equally, you know? And that resonates across the world.
I want to show our audience some pictures that you shared with us, so that they can see that not only are you performing this, that you live this as well. I march because Africa is all I have. Europe is not an option for me. Look at that face. There's no acting going on there. Yeah. Do you remember how you felt?
I do. I was very excited. Yeah. I knew that change was going to happen, and it was time.
Yeah. And then
I get goosebumps.
I still had hair.
And then this one. I mean, these are protest photographs. I mean, they really are.
That happened kind of by accident. So I accidentally ended up leading the march for Fees Must Fall from Hidding campus to Parliament, because I was on the student council for the performers on Hidding campus, and we realized that the police were stopping the jammy shuttles to allow students to get from upper campus to Hidding. So they were trying to stop the protest before it even happened. And I got 3 drama students who had cars on campus to form a barricade of cars so that the students who were on Hidding with us could march up the highway, stop traffic, get the students off the jammies and go to Parliament. And so that kind of, I accidentally got on top of a Jeep to move people around. My mom was very unimpressed, very unimpressed.
So all of you, I want to share this comment from Joshua Gray. He's a student at the University of Maryland in Baltimore County, and this is what he told the stream.
And I just wanted to share 3 main points really quickly. The first is that I wanted to congratulate the cast and creators of this amazing play because they were able to embody so many concepts and ideas and conventions so well that they were able to really tug at the hearts of all the audience members. And this now moves on to my second point, that they were able to make me cry through their emotions, through their use of pathos, through their embodiment of their character. And I think that character development is something that was very much emphasized in this play, and I think that it was well executed. Now moving on to my third point, which is that this play was amazing for conversation starters, that it sparked up a conversation that is very important. And I think that I engaged in so many conversations that were very impactful and powerful and meaningful, and I think that I heard so many around me that were likewise.
So let me give you a little taste of what Joshua experienced when he went to see The Four. I'm going to show you another excerpt performed live here on the stream. So where are we in the production? The statue of Rhodes is being removed from the university grounds. Thousands of people arrive to see the monument being taken down. Here to perform one more time is the cast of The Four.
At last, the crane lifts the statue, and there's a gasp from the crowd. Everything slows down. Rhodes is suspended in the air, and then he swings a few inches above the plinth, like he's not sure if he should get off or not. It's like his ghost is fighting back, trying to make him topple over and crush our black bodies one more time. But then he's gone. He is finally gone. I feel as if our land has just heaved in a giant sigh of relief. A space to breathe at last. As that statue lands on the flatbed truck, I see the look of arrogance on his face. And so I jump on the truck and I give him 6 lashes with my belt. Hey! Full tank!
Rhodes falls. The world stops. History is suspended in the air and continues to wash over us like a salty healing wave. Magana has finally arrived. The earth shakes and crumbles. I hear Omamqadi, Ojola, Odosini scratch at their coffins from underground. I hear the clinking scratch and push of the metal gates. I hear the slaves who didn't arrive and the singing on the Mendi. I hear Eric Garner from across the Atlantic. The taunts of the people around me, reprimands at the excited crowds were foaming at the mouth. I hear the noose pull, the tree branch snap. Uno Ngause is breathing here with us. And Solomon's garden is growing.
I hear the cameras buzz. I hear Eric Garner across the Atlantic. That's just a reminder that Eric Garner was an African-American man killed by police in New York in 2014. His last words were, "I can't breathe," which became a rallying cry seeking justice for his death. The Rhodes Must Fall movement was fueled by unrest in other parts of the world and in turn impassioned and motivated marginalised people worldwide to push against injustice. We are going to have a part 2 of this show. We're going to bring back the cast of The Four, and then we're going to talk about the impact of the Rhodes Must Fall movement around the world and beyond 2015. See you next time. Hi, I'm Femi Okay.
I'm Malika Bilal, and you're in The Stream. Today, part 2 of our discussion with the cast of The Fall, a play that chronicles the activism behind a social movement that started in South Africa.
In March of 2015, students at the University of Cape Town launched Rhodes Must Fall, a movement that not only brought down a statue, but sparked a global campaign to decolonize education. So what does it mean to be a student activist, and what's been the global impact of not just the movement, but the play as well?
Joining us to discuss that are 3 of the co-creators and members of the cast, CLEO RAATUS, ZANDILE MADLIWA, and SIHLE MNQWAZANA. Welcome everyone to The Stream, and it's really good to have you guys here. I wanted to start with this comment via YouTube. This is Anna, who writes in, how do you feel about having become some of the leading international representatives and voices of Fees Must Fall and Rhodes Must Fall? And of course, those are 2 hashtags that went global after they started in South Africa, first in 2015 and then later on in 2016. What does that feel like to be what some people might say are the leaders of this, because they see you enacting that on the stage?
Well, for me, I think it's a great responsibility. It is a very emotional experience as well, because I always think about the fact that dating back to as early as our parents, Black people weren't given this kind of platform or this kind of voice to tell their truths and share their pain. And I think that we're at a very good, our ancestors, our parents, they've paved a way for us to be able to do that. And so we cannot get to a point where we are misrepresenting that particular story. So I think it really grounds us, it really roots us. It is very humbling to be able to tell the story every single day. Yeah.
ZANDILE?
I think, okay, when I hear that tweet, I'm just like, damn. Because for me, I think first and foremost, it's my art introduced me into activism, or gave me the confidence to be an activist. So now that I'm hearing that statement and that question, I knew that it is quite a responsibility performing this play and representing the type of ideas and ideologies that are put on the play. I just didn't think of considering myself as like an international representative of the movement. Mm. But that is, I think it's definitely an honor. This movement has, it's a big deal, because the last, it's so weird. It happened at a time where, as South Africans, we were actually commemorating a movement that happened in like the 1970s, a very huge movement that happened in Sharpeville. Mm-hmm. So it's like kind of like a repetition, and it's sad that as Black South Africans, or as people of color in a marginalized group in South Africa, it still seems like we're fighting about the same things, although the eras are different. But I think it's an honor to be that. It's a huge responsibility. And the most incredible thing is that I still think there's so much for me to learn as an artist, as an activist, as a person that belongs to the community and society. So as much as, you know, this movement has introduced me to really deep parts of myself, I also realize that there's so much that I still need to learn. And I think I look forward to that the most.
I'm going to remind our audience watching this that this was a major news story. What happened at the University of Cape Town and then spread to other universities with the idea of the fees being too expensive, that really took hold. And this was how we reported it on Al Jazeera. Have a look.
Student protests closed Johannesburg's University of Witwatersrand 2 weeks ago. It was supposed to reopen on Tuesday, but a group of about 500 students were not going to let that happen.
No way in which vets will operate.
So the police moved in. They fired rubber bullets, tear gas and stun grenades at the protesting students. These students say they want free university education to help close South Africa's inequality gap, which is still largely divided along colour lines. They're angry at how President Jacob Zuma treated them at a meeting on Monday.
So that was Al Jazeera's Tanya Page reporting. SIHLE, where were you at that time? What were you doing?
I remember it started in Rhodes, actually, and when we joined, we went to Parliament, part of, there's a photo of me actually standing in Parliament where we had the white students standing in front of us to protect us from the police, because it was quite brutal, as you can see even in the clip. We had to ask white students because the police were saying would not attack, you know, the white students in the movement. In fact, there's even a part where a photo of, an iconic photo of a police officer helping take a photo of these white girls who've come to a protest, but when it's us, it's like we're treated differently. So it also hit home for me because when I came to the university, I only had 200 rands, which my family gave me to spend, and far away, kilometers away from where I stay, and not having the fees to integrate me into the lifestyle that orientation opens up for you in university, I wasn't able to integrate from the word go into the university system because of the fees that are exorbitant and that are high, that our families cannot pay.
I wanted to bring this up here because you mentioned you're taking us back to what that feeling was like. A couple questions are similar to this one that we got on YouTube. This is Ivy, who says, what has changed since those years ago? Another person writing on Twitter says, this is Mishka, who says, I attend the university still known as Rhodes. It's been decided that the university's name will not change because it brings money in, because the legacy of Rhodes is still rooted in privilege and wealth, even in South Africa. CLEO, I'll give this one to you. What has changed for you? What do you see as the most significant change, especially keeping in mind that things like the university is still known as Rhodes has not changed?
The most significant change has been within the youth of South Africa. So we have even high school and primary school children dealing with words like decolonization. Everything was moved into the mainstream. They know what decolonization is. They know what, or are beginning to understand what institutionalized racism is. And it was terms like that that we didn't know at all. We were like, I'm feeling this, but I don't know what it is. I don't know how to express it. And then suddenly you have a term for it. You know?
How did you learn that term? What was happening? What
I particularly learned it throughout the Rhodes Must Fall movement. Suddenly we had all these academic books and readings that we could have access to educate ourselves. And we were sending it to each other. And it was a turning point for a lot of the youth. So the youth are a lot more empowered. And that's the biggest thing that came out of it for me, because now people are no longer sitting quietly and waiting for something to happen. They're doing something for the change to happen. They're speaking up, they're having a voice, and that was the most important thing for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say pretty much the same. I think that's the most important change that could occur, At the end of the day, you know, you can only push institutions so far. They'll only listen to you so far. The government, parliament, it's very self-serving industry. Like you said, with the Rhodes, they refuse to change the name because the name Rhodes brings in money. So I think the most important change is to be the mentalities of the people that go to the places, because a lot of the structures are held in place because of older generations. So I think if younger people are more psychologically and emotionally empowered, then that is so much better. And like what you said, you're so right. My nephew is like 12 years old. He knows a lot more than I knew when I was.
Example, tell us one thing he knows.
He is just like a lot more aware, I guess. So like when something doesn't look right, for me as a child, I was a very observant child, but like if something doesn't look right, it will probably slip over me. But like if there's, for instance, at his school, they kept telling him to like, the hair thing is always an issue. They kept telling him to cut his hair. And he came home crying one day and he was like, they keep asking me to cut my hair, but my hair doesn't fall in my face like my friends. And I was like, well, what is that? He's like, it's racist. And I was like, attaboy. Go back to school, you tell them. And if they have a problem, tell them to hit me up on WhatsApp.
And just a little side note for people who don't have afro hair. So afro hair kind of grows out that way, and sometimes in some schools which are go beyond colonialism, but still maybe have that thought that their idea of what's a neat hairstyle does not go out like that. It's kind of slicked down or short or Western style. Little note there for our non-afro hair wearing viewers. So. We wanted to show you a couple of excerpts from the fall, and we're going to pick up in the production where the statue of Cecil John Rhodes has been removed, but instead of pure celebration, new issues of intersectionality arise, causing rifts between the genders. So here to perform a scene is the entire cast of the fall.
You see, after Rhodes fell, all the problems that the movement had been suppressing began to come back into focus. Now, the issue of gender had been simmering throughout the occupation, and now that the statue was gone, the tensions began to boil over. The black radical feminists were demanding that the men account for their patriarchal behavior, while the men were feeling more and more attacked.
No! What you guys did was definitely derail our narrative.
Oh.
By jumping on that plinth, you gave the media this huge photo op. They're not going to focus on the little statements that we keep making as women, and I don't want to have to compete with you for the spotlight by being hyper-masculine and jumping on flatbed trucks and hitting statues. We had an agreement. Just stick to the agreement for once.
So, are you saying that we can't express ourselves naturally? Yeah. This is biology, Kada. It's not your hyper-masculinity. Yeah. When we are in spaces like that, testosterone takes over. Yeah. So what must we do, What must we do?
Kada, this is the hyper-masculinity they keep telling you about. So check thyself, please.
Yeah, and please, every single time we have these discussions about gender, you cis-het men and women make it all about you. And the rest of us are sitting here suffocating. You continue to use these he, she, brother, sister binaries even after non-binary cadres have expressed our pain at being referred to under them. You ignore queers, non-binary cadres, transgender cadres in the space. When you asked us violent and offensive questions, we spent hours here educating you, trying to validate our existence. We have put our bodies on the line over and over for this movement, but we are still seen as invisible members of the space. Respect us. Respect our existence.
Kaya, wait.
No. You black feminists are patriarchy princesses. You refuse to put your money where your mouths are and leave this movement.
Y'all never stop making us proud. That is a tweet we got from Shonasani on Twitter to the stream. You just saw the cast of The Fall. Shonasani writes, y'all revolutionize the world with your talent. 4 fire emojis right there. She goes on to say, when Fees Must Fall began, I was in my final year at the University of Cape Town. I went and protested with my fellow students, and I went to drama school with the entire cast of the play. So I'm really proud of them for spreading the important message and keeping the movement going internationally. So there's a little bit of love online for all of you.
Oh, that's my best friend.
I love that she's watching and knows that you all are here. But I want to pick up on what you talked about in that piece we just saw, because we got a video comment from someone who is a former student activist in Cape Town, and she talks about what this movement meant for her as a black woman. Have a listen to what Denai told us.
The era of fallism was defined by a deep awakening, an awareness of black consciousness, and for the first time, a rude realization for the need of discourse around race post-1994. I think the movement changed when the presence of absolute thinking began to fester and the criteria for being a comrade was narrowed. One thing that has remained for me is that the movement has given me confidence to be bold and proud, and more importantly, to occupy space as a black female, specifically in a city like Cape Town, where black voices are forgotten or unheard.
Agree with everything.
What in particular resonates with you?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I want to share the fact that, you know, what she's talking about, after the movement, everyone like had a sense of confidence in themselves and understanding their identity as individual first and foremost. The one thing that drew us to the movements were different things, and then we came together as one group, you know, under one banner. But the story of being black and writing history is not complete without addressing the most marginalized in society. You know, people like black people, women, and then the struggle goes on to queer bodies, non-binary cadres, like we saw one of the non-binary cadres in the sketch that people just saw now, walking out, people who have disabilities. Our image is not complete until all those people are also empowered, feel like they can participate and contribute into the movement. That was one of the things in the movement that was shaky for some cadres who also participated in, you know, mobilizing and contributing to narrative and the change in the university.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sure you must have seen this, but I want to remind our international audience of how far the must fall movements have moved around the world. There's Oxford must fall, and just look here, I'm just looking here, racist institutions never change, Oxbridge must fall, and then we go to Harvard in the US, Royal must fall, Harvard Law School, and what those students were protesting about was this here. You see? The slaves carrying the sheaves. They eventually managed to get rid of that shield, and then they continued to actually look at some of the injustices and the microaggressions that were happening to people of color at Harvard, and that continues on. Must fall was the thing that connects these, and there are many other universities around the world who are using you as an example. What's that like?
It's, I can't exactly like point out because, you know, as we have the privilege of taking the show internationally right now, but we definitely weren't like the architects of the movement. But it's a great thing that a movement in South Africa was able to influence so many other universities. I remember when the shutdown happened, and we also had a lot of universities supporting us, shutting down their universities because they're supporting South African universities in shutting down. So it's incredible. Also, the use of social media has helped the movement so incredibly much. It's connected so many voices that are going through so many similar things across the world and across campuses, for us to be like, oh, so we're not the only, it's not crazy to feel the way that we feel, and we're not the only people feeling this. So it's a great feeling to know that people that are in these these institutions are not there to just absorb information. It's like, no, we're done with that. We are here to change the narrative. We are here to make sure that when we have children and they go into these institutions, they're not necessarily going through the same problems that we're going through, that they're there to learn. Because oppression in all types of forms, it disturbs you. It takes away so much of your time, so much of your heart, so much of your energy. You know, in areas where you could be growing as a person, that is like stunted because you're constantly having to validate yourself in situations where you really shouldn't have to, especially considering the fact that we're in Africa. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, we're the majority, we are in Africa, at the bottom of Africa, but yet a lot of the times it doesn't feel like that. And I was just going to refer to something that Gol said about Cape Town. Cape Town it's a beautiful city to look at aesthetically, but it's very problematic. And I'm not surprised at the fact that the University of Cape Town, because firstly, it's very hard to get into that university, and it's very diverse, which is a beautiful thing, but there's not enough representation, and it's in Cape Town. And it just shows the type of environment that, you know, we live in. And yeah, I'm just glad that it's been able to influence other universities, and then that name has stuck because a lot of things need to fall.
And Zandile, not just universities, I wanted to bring this up. This is a scribe called Quest. They wrote to us on YouTube. They say, take them down NOLA, that's the hashtag. Thanks you for your work. We stand in solidarity with you in the struggle to remove symbols of white supremacy and the systems that they represent, and that's taking down Confederate statues in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Nice. Wow. Do you know, it is the time of Thanksgiving in the US, you are performing at the studio in DC, so if people are around, they can go and see you in production. What I am particularly thankful for is that you're not only activists, but also thespians, because that is a lethal, beautiful combination. I'm going to get you to work one more time. We'd love to see another excerpt from the fall. And let's pick up in the production where the students are protesting outside of Parliament under the banner of Fees Must Fall because of proposed 12% increase in tuition fees at universities. The government has called this an illegal protest and instructed police to use force to disperse the crowds. The scene takes place after stun grenades are used on unarmed students. So here to perform once again is the cast of The Fall.
So, the first stun grenade was aimed over the line of white people into the black students and workers behind them. We dispersed briefly, and when we returned, the white kids ran to the front again, demanding that the police arrest them. They threw more stun grenades, and we dispersed again, but this time running into Government Avenue.
We arrived just in time to see the gates of Parliament closing. Now there was a group stuck inside the parliamentary precinct and another group outside trying to get back in.
As the gates were closing, my phone fell. I bent down to pick it up and I was trapped inside. I looked down and all I saw were sunglasses and flip-flops. Now sunglasses I get, but who the hell protests in flip-flops?
The chaos continued. The police kept stun grenading and we were dispersing and coming back. I remember a policeman getting hit with his own helmet. These were our fathers, but we were fighting on opposite ends.
The police started warning us and hitting us with their riot shields. All the students in the front were black, so a call was made to our white allies to form a human shield in front of us. I remember a police officer telling a white girl that they didn't want to harm them. And I thought, yeah, ne? This is the South Africa Nelson Mandela dreamt of, where blacks and whites protest together, but nothing has changed.
Izwe lethu iAfrika, iAfrika, izwe lethu inkululeko.
We used to be people. We used to dream of a future where we didn't need to protest anymore or call ourselves brave and fearless. There are reasons we call ourselves that. There are reasons some of us are losing our humanity one protest at a time. There are reasons the workers go on strike. Reasons the black students are so angry. And it feels like the entire world is doing everything in its power not to see them. What do we need to do to show people that we can't keep living like this? To show them that the state of our lives isn't normal, that poverty isn't normal, and that the townships we are born into are not normal, and we are tired of being forced to be brave and fearless. I don't want to be this person. I don't want my life to be a series of violent gatherings where I'm always running away from the police and their stun grenades. I want to be seen. I want to matter. I'm tired. My soul is tired. But the reasons I came here the first time won't let me leave. They won't let me live a normal life.
You're watching an excerpt from the production The Fall here on the stream. Trey Graham on Twitter says, y'all, I just saw The Fall, and I'm here to say that if you're any kind of engaged in making progressive change in the world, you really owe it to yourself to sit with this work made by students who were there for Rhodes Must Fall.
Thank you very much, the cast. We really appreciate you coming into the stream, transforming us. The first time we've had drama on the stream that wasn't caused by myself and Malika. I thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching the stream. We're always online at AJ Stream. See you the next time. Take care, everybody.